Chuck for doing a great job today. Zoe, thank you. And Mark, her husband Mark, who came after a tough day at work, but getting the job done every day. So I appreciate you, Mark, and every other state legislator. I know we have a number in the room, but Mark, thank you, you and Zoe as a family, from manufacturing to leading this party dinner to passing our state laws. Thank you for what you all have done. You brought up Hannity. I will give you. Give Mark a round of applause today, too. Thank you. Great family. So we'll work in the one way or another. We're going to work in a Richland County shout out on Hannity tonight. And Sean's very funny. He and I sometimes will be texting during the show, which is a guy for multitasking. So I was on so Jesse Waters has a show before him, and I was on Jesse Waters about 2 weeks ago. And we were having a funny conversation where they called, again, it was like this, the day of, can you be on the show? It's at the start of the show. They said, listen to his monologue. I said, what's it going to be about? They said, just listen to the monologue and respond to it. I said, fine. So we're listening, and he's given a monologue about something ridiculous that Al Gore said. Okay, and I don't remember what it was, because it wasn't really worth remembering. But Al Gore was saying something, and it was something that didn't make any sense. And Jesse was talking about it and analyzing it, and then they came to me, and his question for me was, what do you think of Al Gore? I said, I don't think of Al Gore. It was my answer to that question. And the fact of the matter is, that's part of the past. It doesn't matter to us. And in some ways, that's my theme for our discussion tonight, is that we spent the last 4 years, we were talking about it with a few of you before, going through this identity crisis as a country. We spent the last 4 years lost in the wilderness, finding our way in who we are as a nation, going through let's just say the dark ages of the Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, whatever that machine was that was operating them period of our national history. But in November of last year, we won. We won both chambers of Congress, the presidency, with a 6-3 majority on the U.S. Supreme Court right here in Ohio. Same situation, conservative state, with a Republican in the governor's office, both chambers of the legislature in Republican control, 6-1, soon to be 7-0 on the Ohio Supreme Court. At this point, if we screw this up, we've got nobody left to blame but ourselves, right? That's what I say. It's the truth. It's the truth. In some ways, that's harder. It's a harder position to be in, but it's the better position to be in if we're willing to step up and do what's right. And so what I told Jesse at the end of that discussion was, I'm just done talking about Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. We're not doing it anymore. And if 6 months from now we're still talking about Kamala and Joe, we lost the plot. I want our memory for Joe Biden 6 months from now to be approximately the same as Joe Biden's memory for anything while he was in office. Because we're chasing the future. We're done with the past. We've turned our page on the past. We're chasing our future. Done with the nightmare, ready for the dream, the American dream that, by the way, this country afforded me. I met another gentleman who came up beforehand. Where were you? You're son of immigrants from Egypt. Were you in the room? Yep. Where are you, sir? Yeah, what's your name, man? You were talking to me beforehand. Mark William. Mark William?
Two first names.
That is two first names. I just want to make sure I didn't leave the S off the Williams. I have to correct some people on my name, too, from time. It's happened occasionally. So Vivek like cake and Ramaswamy like tsunami is the best I've come up with. So Mark William, which is, kid of immigrants from Egypt, is that right?
Yeah, my father.
Your father came from Egypt. And he came up and told me, he said, the American dream is real. I said, I know it, brother, because this state allowed me to live that American dream just as it allowed you and your father to as well. My parents came to this country with nothing 45 years ago to Cincinnati, Ohio. My dad worked at GE. My mom worked in nursing homes, treating elder patients in Southwest Ohio. They didn't come from much. And they would have never imagined when they came here that their son would grow up in Cincinnati, going through public schools to 8th grade, St. X for high school, growing up to become CEOs of multiple successful companies. And in my case, I became the youngest person in U.S. history to run for U.S. president as a Republican. Now hopefully leading the state where I was born and raised. The thing that is extraordinary about that story is that it's really not that extraordinary in the United States of America, right? This is the country where that American dream is possible. And the beautiful thing about your father's journey, right, from Egypt is anyone from this room, we could move or reside in Egypt, but we would never be an Egyptian. We could reside in Italy, and you would never be an Italian. You could reside in Japan or China, and you would never be Japanese or Chinese. But you can come from any one of those countries to this country, as your father did, and you could still be an American as long as you pledge allegiance to the ideals of this country. And that's really what we're bringing back. We're bringing back our missing national identity to the United States of America. We're bringing back what it means to be an American in Ohio and hopefully across this country. What does it mean to be an American? It means we believe in the ideals that set this country into motion 250 years ago. Ideals like meritocracy and the pursuit of excellence. The idea that you do get ahead in this country, not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character and your contributions. That is why we're now done with the woke DEI regime and affirmative action and group quotas, because we stand for merit in the United States of America. It means we believe in the rule of law. And I say this as the proud son of those legal immigrants to this country. That means your first act of entering this country cannot break the law. And that is why if we've had the largest influx of illegals into this country in American history, then we ought to have the largest mass deportation in American history. That's just common sense. That's what it means to stand for the rule of law in the United States of America. It means the people we elect to make the laws ought to be the ones who actually make the laws, not unelected bureaucrats in three-letter agencies in Washington, D.C., or for that matter, Columbus, Ohio. It means we believe in accountability. It means we believe in free speech and open debate, that you get to speak your mind in the open, as long as I get to in return. And you know what? At our best, we can sometimes get together at the dinner table at the end of it. Even those protesters outside, they have the right to be able to spew the nonsense that they appear to be spewing today. Because this is the United States of America, and we celebrate that. And that's one of the things that makes us the best version of ourselves. It means that we're heroic, that we're brave, that we're courageous when called upon to do what is right in our country's hour of need, as our founding fathers did 250 years ago. As I believe we did as a nation when we sent Donald Trump and the Republican majorities back to Washington, D.C. in November. But I'm here because I also know it isn't going to be a one-man job. I think if this country is truly going to be saved, it's going to be the states that now have to step up and lead the way. And this is where I believe we here in Ohio have a chance to lead from the front. Not in the shadow of Texas or Florida, not anymore. I want us to lead, work together to lead Ohio to be not just the top state in the Midwest, arguably we are that already, but to be the top state in the country when it comes to giving our kids the same shot at the American dream that this state gave to me. When it comes to giving our kids that world-class education. When it comes to building that business, growing it, generating wealth, and keeping it right here in Ohio. When it comes to celebrating capitalism and meritocracy instead of apologizing for it. I want to lead Ohio to be the state of excellence in the United States of America. And I believe we will achieve that in the next 4 and 8 years ahead of us if we believe in ourselves. Now, there are those who say, right, I was yesterday in, for a series of commitments. I was started in Ohio, we hit New York, hit Florida, and then came back, raising funds, bringing them into our state to run this campaign that hopefully lifts up everyone up and down the ballot. And when I go to New York or to Florida, or to talk to our friends in Silicon Valley or Texas, I say, don't get carried away. Okay, how could Ohio be that state in America? And I remind them, as I did last night, that it was not long ago that Ohio actually was that state in America. We were the wealthiest state in the Union at the turn of the last century. Even in the 1950s, 6 of the top 15 wealthiest cities in America were right here in Ohio. Toledo, where I was last week, was the glass capital of the world. Akron was the rubber capital. Youngstown and Cleveland, where I visited recently as well, were the steel production capitals of the Western Hemisphere. My hometown of Cincinnati was known around the world as the Queen City, the city of the pioneers, the explorers, the unafraid. We were the people who no bureaucracy would dare stop from achieving the maximum of our potential. The state of John Glenn, the first American to go into orbit around the earth, born, raised, living right here in Ohio as he did it. The state of Neil Armstrong, becoming the first man in human history to walk on the moon, born, raised, living right here in Ohio as he did it. The state of the Wright brothers, taking flight when that was deemed to be impossible, born and raised right here in the state of Ohio. We were the state of excellence in the United States of America. And you know what? We can be that state again, because if you think about it, not just the rah-rah, pat yourself on the back, be proud of yourself side of it. If you think about the hard facts, we have every natural advantage that we did the first time around. The same fertile farmland, the same natural resources, the same, in fact, I would argue, the same natural resources, but which we now know are more valuable. Now we know natural gas is valuable. We had it back then. We didn't know what it could do. We're like the equivalent of what? The Saudi Arabia, the Middle East of natural gas right here in the state of Ohio. We had a great geographic location that's even better now than it was then, because today we have 60%. Think about that, 60% of North America's population within a single day's drive of where we're sitting right now. God has blessed our state with every natural gift we could wish for to be that state that leads America back to greatness. All we have to do is to actually believe in ourselves to do it again. And I, for one, have bone-deep conviction that this is Ohio's moment. That if Silicon Valley led the way for the last 10 years, it's going to be the Ohio River Valley for the next 10 years. We're done with the Rust Belt. We're talking about the Platinum Belt, chasing the future right here in Ohio. And I'm not talking about taking Ohio back to 1950. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I want Ohio to represent to the American economy and to the world in the year 2030 what Ohio did back in 1950. And that means we're not just chasing the past, but we're chasing the future. The future of semiconductor production, the future of nuclear energy to natural gas to power our electric grid, the future of biotech to Bitcoin to our defense industrial base, the state where we actually use AI not to take jobs, but to make jobs through workforce training and education. This is where I want to lead our state, to our modern-day Northwest Ordinance right here in Ohio, where a group of Baptists came here braving the unknown to settle and write a Northwest Ordinance that celebrated religious liberty and secured freedom of speech even before the Constitutional Convention. It's that kind of moment here in Ohio right now. And you know what? We're just getting started in this campaign. It is a preview of what is to come in the years ahead. It is going to take, I believe, a new kind of leadership, a new generation of leadership, to build on the great foundation that's been laid. Great state leaders like Mark Romanchuk, Christina Rogner, so many of others who are in this room tonight, who have laid a great foundation for us. But we're going to build on that foundation to say great is not good enough. We're going to be greater still to lead Ohio to the best version of who we can be for America. That's why I'm going to lead Ohio to become a zero-income tax state, because you deserve to keep what you earn. It is your money, not the government's. And if Florida, where I was last night, can do it, then the state that put a man on the moon can do it too. 8 other states have done it. We're going to do it here in Ohio. So we're going to put a ceiling on the property taxes in this state, which have gotten insanely high, unjustly high right now. I said earlier, I was talking to a smaller group of you, I said we pay as much, many people do, in interest and principal on your mortgage as you do in your property tax. He said, no, it's actually more. And for many of you, that's actually correct. That's antithetical to our values as Americans. It's antithetical to our values here in Ohio. And we're going to put an end to it. End the capital gains tax. Roll back the red tape, government overreach, regulation. We're a red state, but not a state of red tape. We want a boom in this state, a boom of natural gas, a boom of manufacturing, a boom of energy production, a boom of AI-driven automation that increases factories and production and their productivity through advanced manufacturing here in Ohio. The state where we build more homes to bring down the cost of housing, build more manufacturing plants, build more startups, build more small businesses that grow up to be big businesses, build more families that maybe expand in size over time. Build a life in the mold of the American dream. That's what I want for this state. It's not just about our GDP numbers, right? It's not just about some sort of economic calculation. This is about the social and economic fabric of our state. So we're no longer a place where a little league team has to shut down because they can't find a local company to sponsor them, or where a mom doesn't have to think twice before having that third kid for fear of the cost of a new stroller or buying a bigger car. Not so much in our family, but for many families in this state, that is the case, actually. So we're a state where every parent has that bone-deep conviction that their kids will indeed go on to live an even better life than they did, because that's the American dream that we embody in Ohio. Now, in order to get there, there's a critical nut we're going to have to crack for the country, actually, where I want us to lead the way in finding our way out of the educational achievement crisis that we're in right now. Not just in Ohio, but across the country. And if we fix this, there's two things that affect the next generation of Americans. My kids and their generation. What they're going to face, there's two things that fall on their shoulders. And if we don't get this right, we don't have, certainly the America we know left. Number one is the national debt crisis. We're paying more on interest payments on our national debt than we are on our entire U.S. military budget. That is unsustainable for the long run, and we're going to have to do something in the long run to address this culture of dependence on the entitlement state that has festered in our country for 60 years. And it's time to put an end to it. That's our true Declaration of Independence. July 4th, 2026, we celebrate 250th anniversary of when Thomas Jefferson, younger than me, when he signed that Declaration of Independence in 1776. The Declaration of Independence of our moment is the Declaration of Independence from the overgrown government. That's what we have to deliver federally, and we're going to show how it's done right here in Ohio with work requirements for Medicaid, work requirements for welfare. Actually have the next generation participate in what Albert Einstein called the greatest discovery of man, which is compound interest, starting at a young age, rather than trying to make up for it with a failed great society that was engineered in a failed experiment for the last 60 years. That will take courage. It will take conviction. It will take a leader who's willing to be able to not confront the criticism they try to shout you down with, but hopefully even with the courage to explain to all people why we're doing this for the betterment of everybody, Republican and Democrat alike. And I pledge that's what I'll bring to the leadership of this state. We're not going to be able to do that one alone. That's going to take the federal government, and we're going to do our part here in Ohio. But there's one area where we're going to be able to lead the country, which is out of the educational achievement crisis, and that's number two. Okay, we got to fix the national debt problem, and we got to fix our educational achievement of our kids. If we do both those things, we're back, not just for the next 4 years, but the next, hopefully, 4 centuries as a country. But today, we got our work cut out for us when the average student in China is doing better in math, reading, and writing by 4 years compared to the average student here. Think about that. A 7th grader here is performing at the equivalent of a 3rd grade student in China, when 75% of our own 8th graders are not proficient in math on an age-adjusted proficiency level. When there's students in other countries where English isn't even their first language, doing better on English proficiency than our own students here. Yes, that is a crisis. And I speak for every parent in this room, I'm sure, when I say that we refuse to stand by and watch idly as China laughs at our gradual decay. No, we're going to turn this ship around, and we're going to turn it around in the state of Ohio by giving our kids a world-class education in those foundational subjects, no matter what zip code they're born in, giving every parent the access and what I believe is the birthright of every American to send their kids to the best possible school they can through taking our school choice programs already successful to the next level, while also doing the hard work of rolling up our sleeves and making sure that our public schools are equipped to compete with the best of those alternatives. All right, thank you. This is where we're going to lead the country, not just following the other states. I mean, it starts with, there's some very basic things. It embarrasses me that we even have to talk about it. We got to make sure our kids show up to school. After the COVID-19 school closures, that isn't the case. I'll tell you, never again in this state are we going to bend the knee to this fake Anthony Fauci knockoff who allowed our public schools to be closed, while the private schools remained open, actually. She's my opponent in this race, Mrs. Fauci, and we're going to beat her by 40 points next year, and with your help, we're going to win in a landslide that unites the state and send her packing. But that's just basic, right? That's just the table stakes. We got to stand for the achievement of our students. Now, part of this means it's two things: bringing order to our schools, empowering our teachers and our principals to actually bring discipline back to the classroom in the school environment, including in our cities. We can't hamstring our teachers from being able to do their jobs when many of them are facing down. I hear stories of threats in the classroom. They can't even do an in-school suspension for such a student. That is not compassion to that student. That is cruelty even to the student, because that's what an educational system has to do, is to provide the guardrails of discipline. But it also means expecting more of ourselves. And that means the best teachers deserve to be paid a lot more money than the starting salary of $40,000 a year that is a public school teacher's salary today. And I will admit that's not a traditional Republican talking point, but it's the truth. But that has to be tied in some way to performance. If you run a business without performance management, there's no success in that business, and yet that's exactly how our public schools are run today. And we're going to change that for the betterment of our students, and frankly, for the best of our teachers, the betterment of our teachers as well. We're going to be the state where our kids excel in math, reading, writing, not just in the classroom, but in physical education as well. Integrate PE as early as kindergarten. Bring back the presidential fitness test for every student in this state. Frankly, I don't know why we got rid of it in the first place, right? We got to do including the pull-ups. Don't forget that. and it's not just, I mean, I don't say this, it's in all seriousness, the best way to save on health costs in the long run is to have that healthier population in the first place. Not just physical health, but mental health too. Get the cell phones out of the classroom. Stop baiting our kids into the cycle of addiction and ADD and Ritalin treatment. Fill that, I would go so far as to say, spiritual void in the heart of a generation. We had a discussion earlier with a group of you about the question of addiction came up. There is an epidemic of depression, anxiety, fentanyl, opioid addiction, suicide that has festered in our state too long. And the job of true leaders, from the family to the state to beyond, is to fill that vacuum with the real thing, what is true, what is good. For the part of our schools, replace the woke indoctrination and victimhood psychology with actual civics lessons, with actual U.S. history lessons that teach our kids to be proud of our state and our country rather than to be ashamed of it. I say this looking at my friend Jeff Sekenga. Jeff, you want to stand up for a second? Jeff runs the Ashbrook Center, not far from here at Ashland College, giving great civic education to our students. Jeff, thank you. It's been an honor to serve on the advisory board for the last several years, shaping civic education and higher education. You're doing a great job at the Ashbrook Center, but I want that for every one of our high school seniors, with some tough love to go along with it. You don't love somebody if there isn't some tough love for your kids along the way. Every high school senior who graduates from an Ohio public high school on my watch will actually have to pass the same civics test that every legal immigrant had to pass before they became a voting citizen, in our kids' case, before they graduate from high school. Because you got to know something about your country to be proud of your country, to respect your country. And that lays the foundation for higher education, where we want the best universities in Ohio. I say this as somebody whose path to the American dream went through four-year college education, and I'm proud of that. But I also want our state to be the place where every son and daughter of Ohio who wants to become a welder or an electrician or a carpenter or a mechanic or a machine operator also has his path to the American dream without having to take on that burdensome four-year college debt, without occupational licensing requirements, with earn-while-you-learn programs as early as high school. Put some money in that young student's pocket. You asked me, sir, is you going to stand up and remind me your name again? You asked me the question about addiction earlier. Scott, I appreciated that question because part of this comes from that loss of purpose and pride and self-confidence in many of our young men and women, especially many of our young men in the state right now, who may not see a four-year college degree as a path for them, and then retreat and step back, maybe at the age of 16, 17, that's not for me. What's the alternative, right? Sitting in your parents' basement, playing video games, smoking pot, ending up on that cycle of government aid that I talked about earlier that we're going to have to break, as opposed to an earn-while-you-learn program. We have some regulations that are in the way of that now. We're going to get them out of the way to allow that kid to earn some money, put money in his pocket, by having an employer-sponsored program in the high school where they're learning valuable skills along with their basic education and earning some money while they're at it, filling that sense of pride, getting a head start on the American dream without having to be saddled with four-year college debt. That, too, is a dignified, honorable path to the American dream. And that is my dream for this state and, frankly, for our region and even our country. The place where every path is open to every child. Not that one is better than the other, one is more elite than the other, or the reverse of the trap we sometimes may fall into to say, oh, well, now that's four-year college education and that's bad because it is elite. No, it's all elite. It's all, every path is the right path for that child. For every young man and woman who wants to become a doctor or an engineer or a computer programmer, to go through that bachelor's degree program and beyond. While also every son and daughter of our state who wants to be that welder or that electrician or that mechanic also having a path to the American dream through vocational education. That is what a true meritocracy is about. And this nation was built on the idea of that meritocracy. You see, a true meritocracy recognizes the truth that no two people have the same skills. That every one of us, actually, every one of you and every one of your kids has your own unique God-given gift. And that we are the country on God's green earth where you get to make the most of your own innate talents without any man or system or government or bureaucracy standing in your way. That is what made America great the first time. That is how we're going to make Ohio great again. Teaching our kids to be proud of their skills and success rather than penalizing. The state where they're not envious of somebody else's success because they're participating in it with real skin in the game. The state where the American dream is your birthright. Where success is your birthright. Where a world-class education is your birthright. The state where freedom was our heritage. And if we embrace that, then excellence will be our destiny. This is not a humble vision for Ohio. I think that's what everyone expects us to have from our friends on the coasts and down south in Texas and Florida. It's not a humble vision for Ohio. It is an ambitious vision because I believe that is who we really are as Ohioans and as Americans. We're not victims. We're victors. We don't whine, we win. When we rallied behind the cry to make America great again, that is what we hungered for. The unapologetic pursuit of excellence in this country. That's what the American dream is about. I have lived it. I will fight for it every day for my kids and for yours. We're going to travel this state tirelessly. We're going to visit all 88 counties this year. We're already very close to getting up to 88. We're going to get there. I think we're into the 50s right now, Jonathan. Is that about right? My guys around here. Yeah, I think we're over 50. Is it over 50? Yeah. Where are we at? 52 maybe? 54. All right, 54. All right, tonight. So we're visiting all 88 counties this year. We're going to visit all 88 counties next year. Frankly, I want to visit all 88 counties every one of the 8 years that I hopefully am given the honor to serve as your governor. Because I don't want to govern from a bubble in Columbus. The success of this state has to include the success of every part of this state. Not just the people in this room, but frankly the people who aren't in this room too. We're constitutional conservatives and we're proud of that. But we want to lead a big coalition of independents, libertarians, orphaned Reagan Democrats, any other politically homeless people in this state. We will find a seat for you at the table, and we will work with you to lead our state to the next level. As long as you care, about giving your kids that world-class education, giving your kids the same shot at the American dream that the state gave to me. Economic excellence and educational excellence in this state. If you're on board with that, we're going to disagree on some things, but we will work with you to lead Ohio to the next level, because I refuse to be a state in decline. I refuse for us to be a nation in decline. I believe that we here in Ohio, like our country, are still a state in our ascent, a state on our way up, the state that is still that shining city on a hill, that country and that state where we will look our kids in the eye and mean it when we tell them that you get ahead in the United States of America and you get ahead in the state of Ohio with your own hard work, your own commitment, your own dedication, and that you know what? You are free to speak your mind at every step of the way. That is the American dream. That is what we are running to. And with your help, we will turn dream into reality in Ohio starting in about 18 months. Thank you, guys. God bless you and your families, and may God bless our great state of Ohio. And I appreciate you guys having me. We're going to be back. Thank you. Good to see you. Richland Ramaswamy.
Richland Ramaswamy.